You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to another special episode where we're lucky enough to be joined by our educational correspondent, Miss Anna Binder. There is just so much going on at CCSD. I mean, everything from kids bringing computers home that are tracking their data, CRT, anti-racism, policy, curriculum, the money. Oh my gosh, the money. We were going from spending $5.2 billion annually to now getting upwards of an extra $1 billion to decide what to do with. Officers are making the news by perceived chokeholds, and people are talking about any kind of systematic racism, whether you're talking about, first we have the people on the border with their whips, and then you got CCSD officers with kids in perceived chokeholds. And just school violence in general. Teachers are super concerned about their health care. They're not, some teachers are having their health bills go to collections because THT simply isn't making it. And we just got so much to talk about. But first of all, welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you. Great. Thanks for having me again.
And a lot of exciting things I know are happening for you. You're going from a grassroots organizer to a deep state operative,
yes,
or being named to committees and stuff like that. Yeah. How has your activism evolved into deep statism?
Well, I'll leave it to the Republicans for giving me the deep state rooting in the last couple of weeks. I'm kind of rolling with it. I like it. It's kind of catchy. As most people know, I just started out about 2 years ago getting super irritated that my nonverbal autistic son, at the start of the pandemic, when schools initially shut down, like, hey, I was good for the 2 weeks, 3 weeks, slow the curve.
Right.
We're now how many days after flattening the curve?
500.
Yeah, I don't keep track. It's kind of depressing. Over the summer, as most parents, I were getting very upset. Some things that I have learned that I thought were very interesting in the last couple of weeks was, according to the Nevada Department of Education, CCSD was supposed to bring forth 3 plans for school reopenings last year that echoed what the parents and the teachers would agree on. And we all know in June of 2020, there was a survey that went around, and I believe around 80% of parents wanted their kids in school full-time summer of last year, coming into the 2020-2021 school year.
Right. Just like Florida had opened up their schools right off the bat. A couple of other schools around the nation postponed their opening a couple of weeks, but maybe open September 1st or end of August instead of their regular start date.
Yeah, it was really predominantly New York, LA County, and us. That kind of stayed behind that curve. And so towards the end of summer, when we were going into the board meetings and we only had 3 plans, and if some who've been paying attention to the meetings noticed, Trustee Ford was constantly questioning why we only had 3 plans. And really none of those 3 plans were consistent with the survey that came back from the parents.
Right.
And then you roll forward into what we have all kind of seen.
Right, and that's pretty much how we met, because I was all about opening up the schools. I mean, we don't align on everything, but at the same time, we hooked up because we both were passionate about opening up schools first and foremost.
Right, children need to be in school.
And then, seems to be a recurring theme, though. Whether you're talking about county commissioner meetings regarding regular politics, or you're talking about the CCSD board meetings or surveys, it seems like the will of the people is really secondary, and these public comments seem to be, almost a waste of time now, and people are starting to get frustrated that their voices aren't being heard.
I want to finish what I was saying about the 3 plans that wound up coming forward for our alleged reopening last year. We had a officers meeting 2 weeks ago over at the admin building, and during that meeting they were discussing future protocols for public comment at board meetings. We're an open meeting law state, and our boards follow Robert's Rules of Order. So I do post those links out frequently for people who get frustrated that are showing up and speaking. But I spoke out loud at that meeting that it was very odd to me that when we were trying to reopen our schools and get our kids back, and maybe especially our most vulnerable, like SPED and ELL, that our district really only brought forth 3 plans, despite the public, parents, the public speaking out, and then when we roll forward to a couple weeks ago and our board is discussing, really, guys, they're not trying to impede your First Amendment right. And I do want to take a side note. Today is First Amendment Day. What they're trying to do is create a place where when you're showing up to business meetings, that they're not so disruptive that business can hardly get done. And I will say that when you're up there speaking and the crowd behind you is heckling or harassing or just being overly loud and disrespectful, it is very hard to keep a train of thought. It is very hard to focus on the business that's actually on the agenda. Nobody wants to silence you. You're gonna argue with
proposed?
Me all day long. Things like making it consistent throughout the agenda. Like we're sometimes in public comment, you have 2 minutes, and then when we go into like business items, it's 3 minutes.
Right.
I've been yelled at in a couple of meetings saying I went over my time, but I'm typically speaking on consent agenda items. So when you compound items, you do get more time than the 2 or 3 minutes.
Right, no, of course, you're gonna, what are you trying to say about regarding stifling speech?
Right, no, they're not. Don't use that word. They're not. They're trying to come up with a way that no matter who shows up and no matter who's there to speak, that the rules are more consistent across the board for a lot of time, so they can make that more clear in their agendas. And then I know that they are trying to figure out how to prioritize student voices in the beginning.
Right. I mean, they seem to be doing all these things. I noticed that, I watch school board meetings across the country, and the CCSD school board meetings are quieter. I mean, every once in a while you get a little applause or a joke or something like that. But in general, they're some of the strictest and quietest meetings I've seen across the country.
Well, I don't watch YouTube. I actually cringe when people share the videos from what's going on around the country. But just to finish up what I was saying about that,
but I was also saying they also address always letting students go first. I mean, you act like they're trying to change something.
You can't really, in open meeting law, from what I can tell, you can't really prioritize any one person or group over another.
Well, I've watched the past 3 or 4 board meetings. Among the past year,
now,
they always say, "Oh, do we have any more students? Can you still stay, or can you wait?"
Well, they did that at the special meeting because they knew that they were going to go on for hours, and students had school the next day. So when they opened it up for that, they did ask, and we did only have one other student in the audience, and they didn't speak. So, but they're trying to figure out ways to just kind of make the flow a little better. Put the timeline like kind of straight across the board so no one's confused about 2 or 3 minutes. And just keep getting business done. So when I'm seeing out in public comment, on social media and stuff, that people really think that they're trying to take anything from you, they're not. Same thing like with the county commission meetings. I know no one really wants to hear this, but it is echoed time and time again after meetings. I'm not going to get into the specifics of who your trustee is, but your trustees are listening. And, they're listening, and they do regurgitate some of your questions and your concerns when it comes back into discussion items for them. So I do just want to highlight that.
I mean, it doesn't seem that way when certain things are being presented to the county commissioners board.
I don't want to get too far from why I was saying that.
And 90% of the speakers are on one side, and then they vote 7-0 the other way. It doesn't feel like they're being heard.
You always do this to me, so it gets me off track. So the reason I brought all of that up is because at that officers' meeting, I pointed out that when we were reopening schools, we only had 3 plans. The trustees limited it to 3 plans. 3 plans only went to the state. They picked, honestly, in my opinion, I can't say it was the most horrible one, but it was horrible. But when they were openly discussing how other districts in our country handle public comment periods, prioritizing student voices, kind of like, if you show up with 100 people, there are boards that limit it to 2 or 3 main speakers and not 100. and things like that.
Right, but you wouldn't want being support of something like that.
They came forward at the officers thing with over 75 examples of different districts in our country and how they handle public comment. So I stood up and I'm like, wow, that's kind of funny. You only found 3 when we were reopening our schools, but when you're discussing how to you know, smooth out public comment, you come up with 75.
Well, because they're motivated.
Right, absolutely. And I did say out loud that it's just kind of funny, and it shows that when the district
when they're
wants
motivated,
to get something done,
they can do
this
it.
is how they come to the table. So for anyone that's out in the community, I know many advocates and community groups, we all know the power of what the district is capable of when it's motivated and it's intentional with what it's doing.
All right. I mean, let's just start addressing some of the things. I was watching some of your previous testimonies. You were talking about something that's a big concern, especially among conservatives, is these devices, Chromebooks or even whatnot, that have cameras, have tracking devices, have informational things. So, it's Google is owning all of this data. Whether it's websites that they go to, camera footage from inside your classroom, how do you control who's in control of the camera? How much access do they have on your computer in your home?
Well, they have all of it.
That's required to take home.
It is, so 2 things. Last year, when they forced everyone to distance learning and they were insistent that every student within our district picked up their district-assigned Chromebook. There were many of us speaking out about that because those district devices contain a software called GoGuardian. And so some of us were like, well, wait a minute, what is this tracking? What is this monitoring? The district on face value tells you that the monitoring that is within the GoGuardian program is for the safety of your children. It keeps track of everything that they're Googling on that device. Any chats they might be having, for
your safety.
Right. It's for your safety for your children. So immediately last school year, I was telling all parents, do not pick up one of those devices. Mainly because for the last couple of years in Nevada, SPED parents have fought for cameras in the classroom for our most vulnerable nonverbal children. The rate of abuse to those children when they are attending school is higher than any other category of student within not just our district, but our state. And when it went to the legislation a couple of years ago, the district's main arguments to the legislation was the cost, which back then was just shy. It was somewhere around $200,000, okay? Right.
They spend,
Hold on, right. And then second was FERPA, which is privacy for the other students in the classroom. So last summer when they're like, hey, everybody, come get your free computer so your kid can be stuck at home with you and, and then we can track everything.
While you do the dishes.
Right.
While your kid is in
we
class.
had several parents coming forward and issues arising out of that spying, and it was not for your child's safety. It was just, we spoke up about FERPA. You constantly defend not putting the cameras in the classroom for our most vulnerable students, but now you have cameras in our home.
Right.
And we're not supposed to be on camera when our kid's in class. For us, we have 6 kids in the house. I only have so much room.
Right.
I have kids. You're going to cross cameras. I can't guarantee my 5-year-old isn't going to pop his head in and be like, hey, guys, what are you doing?
Right.
That happened. We heard stories all through distance learning last year about siblings coming into the camera, butt naked, younger siblings. Parents screaming obscenities in the background at whatever, and it getting picked up. I think there unfortunately were several TikToks where even college level students were playing jokes on camera right in the middle of class.
Right. Or taking a bong hit or brandishing their gun.
But even
watching porn in the background.
Right. Well, I was going to say,
that.
or them having American flags or Blue Lives Matter flags or BLM flags and things like that. So there was policies just with the dress code.
Right, but then they're going to tell you what you can have up in your wall in your bedroom. Why don't we
Right.
just go to school and teach kids reading and math?
Right. And so a lot of us had a lot of concerns, a lot of arguments about like, hey, this is my
And
home.
what's going to happen now?
And-
Only because we got 100 things
Yeah,
to go.
anyway, so
what's going to happen?
So two really big key things. I spoke about it last meeting. We just granted another $42 million to Troxel Communications for the purchase of Chromebooks. I always speak out about that because
Feels like coronavirus testing and Chromebooks is all we have to spend money on.
Right, not on this agenda, but this agenda was $42 million to Chromebooks, and which to now from April of last year forward, we're at $113.1 million that has all gone to Troxel Communications. Don't get me wrong, this is exempt to the competitive bidding process because it's an electronic device that contains software. So I did ask.
And I'm guessing we don't own that software. We're leasing them.
Nope, we lease that.
So in order for us to use the things that we're buying for over $100 million, we have to continue to have a subscription with this particular company.
Yep, I have a separate total. I think we're also upwards over about $100 million in software that we've spent since April of last year.
And surely there's like investigatory committees making sure that this isn't Jara's brother-in-law. I mean, just
just because we are talking about like money and then like money on testing because that's on the list. Just so you guys know, almost every year CCSD is audited by a third party. And
they always give them an award for wonderful bookkeeping. I read it every time, and they always get some platinum award to CCSD for their wonderful budget.
And
the company that's auditing them.
By the company that's auditing them, correct. So, in my quest in the community, I have stepped up a lot in the last 2 years. So, in the last month, I was appointed to the State Board of Education's Special Education Advisory Committee. For special, as a parent for children with special needs. I was just appointed, as a lot of you know, to the Audit Advisory Committee. So bing, 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 money. And then I also was appointed to our Zone Advisory Committee. So you guys are hearing that pop up right now because Monday we have like a redistricting meeting, which is the beginning stages of redistricting your trustees. Our committee doesn't actually have anything to do with that. That is legislative. But you've heard the chatter in the last couple of days about
that. And
am
I correct in thinking that the commissioners, the county commissioners districts are the same as the school board trustee districts?
Correct. So the entire state of Nevada is currently under redistricting. I can share some links with you. It is important to pay attention to that because under NRS, this is supposed to be done by the legislatures. I did just see an announcement overnight that they have now formed a special committee for it. And it is important to all Nevadans that you pay attention to this redistricting because where lines are drawn, you may not understand how many more or less votes that can pull into a very important district.
And what color the areas that they add and subtract to it.
Correct. So I'll share some of those with you. So you
but you had mentioned, spending money on testing. I mentioned COVID testing. Chromebooks, and now standardized testing.
Right.
I mean, everything from MAPs to SBACs to EOCs.
So
what were you referring to?
Clarification, we actually don't
You were referring to ELL, I believe.
Right. So this past week, we granted just over 1.6 million for proficiency testing for ELL. And my biggest problem with that is it's not just that we paid for like this software to test them. We pay for a lot of software to test basic proficiency.
And why don't we just give them a test?
Our district gets money from the feds, not just our district, but our state. This actually kind of more started incentivizing back during the Reagan administration because Reagan was one of the first full administrations that was all about the school voucher program. And so you still hear these conversations today, especially in our community. But Reagan's administration was really like the first full frontal attack on public education that our country had ever seen, even though proficiency testing started way back like in the 50s. But this was their way, so it started with the No Child Left Behind Act.
Right.
And we all know that was a very failed system. But the federal government held millions of dollars over our states' heads, forcing our governors to agree with this act in order to
get
keep
the
funding in for education.
And I don't understand why we're getting federal money. the federal government should never be involved in education at all. In the
Maybe
first
just
place.
Oversight.
I mean, guidance for, like, say, Common Core, which Common Core is crap. But,
Right.
But but the reason Common Core is crap is because it's micromanaged.
Absolutely.
I mean, what we do need
Honestly,
is,
everything right now is crap because it is so micromanaged.
Right.
You hear teachers talk about this
We've
so
evolved,
much, right?
and maybe Nebraska and New York are a lot more similar today than they were 100 years ago.
Well, we're
But
all
at-
father.
Right. I mean, everything has, been modernized. So I do believe there should be some sort of framework. So if a kid moves from North Dakota to Florida, he's kind of learning the same math. They're kind of learning the same English. So that way it's ballpark the same. But that is the extent of the Constitution has nothing about education
in it. Right.
And anything not in the Constitution is left to the states.
Right. And then so when you come to the end of the No Child Left Behind Act, we roll into they just named it something else. I'm sorry, the name is escaping me. I spoke about it at the board meeting. But we just literally rolled from No Child Left Behind to another program, which is essentially the same crap in a different garbage can that nobody tied the lid off on and forgot to take it out.
And we continue to evolve, whether you're talking about this restorative justice program or, we're going to start getting into the violence and stuff like that. But as we evolve into that, what about, I know that you are a big advocate and you helped educate me regarding the difference between anti-racism policies, CRT, anti-racism curriculum, and everything like that. I haven't heard much about that. What is going on regarding any kind of changes to the curriculum? Because one thing that was very enlightening when I had Danielle Ford on was she explained to me that, and it just really shone a light on how the media is dividing us, about how I learned about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I watched the movie Roots. I learned about the slave trade triangle, the Indians. I learned about all that. And Danielle Ford says they're not learning that stuff in CCSD.
They're not.
Now, I'm telling you right now, the conservatives aren't concerned about children learning about slavery.
Correct.
They're not concerned about learning about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King or watching the movie Roots.
Right.
But the media tells conservatives they're trying to jam anti-whiteness down your child's throat.
Correct.
Which I think is pushing it.
And they're not.
On the other hand, the media is telling the mainstream media, who speaks with more democratic base, is saying that conservatives don't even want slavery in the classroom whatsoever, and no American Indians and nothing but happy stuff.
Right.
And that's not what conservatives want. But they're playing us against each other because
Absolutely.
they know
It's the great
conservatives aren't watching CNN,
Right.
and the Dems are not watching Fox. So. They don't even realize that they're pitting us against each other for BS. We both want the same thing.
This is the historical,
for the most part,
this
closely.
is the historical media divide that the national media does. They come in, they split, they divide, and people are so hooked on those headlines that no matter, I don't think anyone in our country right now that could write a comprehensive article about it that both sides could sit down and read and completely digest and understand it. And so honestly, it's been for those in the community that racism affects this past year, and what is transcribed with the national media doing what they're doing to conquer and divide in our community is atrocious. And I spoke about this a couple of meetings ago. When you step out into the community and you listen, and you can listen before you judge and listen before you have an opinion about what you believe is going on, you will open up yourself to realize that a lot of those matters, they don't affect you as a white person. They don't really affect your children. They affect the ones that are directly faced with it every day in their lives. And we've heard student testimony the past couple months about how it has affected the students in our community. We're hearing from parents and grandparents, going back even farther than the Arborview incident.
Well, kids have been dealing with bullying and racism and sexism and
for generations.
Whether you're talking about acne on a kid's face or whatever the case may be, we need to start teaching our kids to be more respectful to each other just in general.
Absolutely.
And making it necessarily about and every conservative will tell you that What they want is the kids to learn the truth about our country
Yep.
and to believe and teach the kids that this is the greatest country that ever was.
Right.
And that's not trying to be hyperbolic.
Right.
I mean, if you start looking at numbers and stats and the least racist country, the most prosperous country, the least imperialistic country, but that's what conservatives are worried about, is being taught that this country is bad because it's imperialistic, which, to be honest, it isn't. Because we're selfish. Well, actually, we're not. We're
Actually,
the most
I
giving.
kind of believe all Americans are selfish, especially, I'm 42. I do think we live in one of the greatest nations on this earth. We have fought for hundreds of years now for us to all live in a society where I can be me and you love or hate me, and you can be you and love or hate someone. And, you can have a Dallas Cowboys fan across the street and you're, a 49ers
what does that have
fan.
to do with all Americans being selfish?
Because we're coming to a point with what the national media is doing is that, hey, if I'm taking this stance and, hey, you're taking that stance, they're showing more of the divide on the hate and division level than what we really have going on in our country.
Well, right. If you only watch the news, you would think every time
Absolutely.
you go to the gas station, there was a black guy fighting a white guy.
Right. And so my best advice, and I did this many, many years ago, turn the bleeping news off. Period. Just turn the news off. Because when you go out into the world, for the most part, you're not experiencing things that wind up hitting the national level, like with police violence or the riots, or a lot of the things that like BLM has really tried to bring mainstream in the last couple of years. And again, I don't want to get too far into this because I'm not marginalized by it, but I have been open ears and I have been supportive of those in our community that are bringing forward, and again, I'm going to point it out, I did it last time we were on our show. The anti-racism policy has nothing to do with CRT. Jesus Jara is at a conference today. He actually just a couple hours ago and said, we are not teaching CRT in our schools.
They've been saying that for 6 months.
So why aren't they listening?
Because CRT is the catchy acronym. All right, CRT is a doctorate level college program. Sure. I understand the people are not afraid of their third grader being taught doctorate level philosophy.
You know what?
They're concerned about people who are influenced by that and believe in that, influencing what policy is put forth.
Okay, but
that's what they're not scared that somebody is going to say, okay, little Bobby, here's some CRT, and all white people are evil. They're worried that I believe all white people are evil, and I get named to the committee to tell you what's going to be taught in our schools. So that's the concern.
Again, so the committee, AB 371 is law. The state of Nevada has to create these policies in which to collect data on racial incidents. So the entire premise under CCSD's anti-racism policy.
Right, but now you're the one who taught me this.
We're
going from CRT and anti-racism curriculum to anti-racism policy, which are two totally different things.
Right, and that is what I've been trying to tell you for months now. The anti-racism policy has absolutely nothing to do with CRT. It has nothing to do with curriculum. It has nothing to do with any of that. The AB 371, go look it up, it outlines what the districts and the state are accountable for in collecting data for racist incidents. And
but you're not addressing my concern.
Hold on, let me finish. So the little committee that was put together to write the policy is a sham. It's a joke. It's a distraction. It's a stalling, drag your feet tactic because the district doesn't really want the policy. If the district wanted the policy pursuant to the law that came into effect on July 1, the district would have the policy on the books.
And the last thing we need is more academics getting involved. I mean, we don't need people from an Ivy League school to determine what CCSD needs best. I think people in CCSD should decide what CCSD needs best. And this is why they put
the public committee together.
But then when you mention it doesn't, some of these things are so socioeconomic or socio-political that it's really over our heads. It's not affecting us. For example, a guy with a whip on the border, when Haitians are trying to get over. That's not really affecting mom and dad. But this is what's affecting mom and dad. We have, just this last week in the school, we had an officer, and when they blur out the kid's face, it looks like the officer is pinning the kid's throat down with his forearm, when actually I don't actually know what happened, but we could look at the video and decide for ourselves. This is being touted as an example of why we need to remove CCSD from our schools.
Well, we're not going to remove CCSD PD from our schools, but what we need is what we always
Be careful
talk about.
who you vote to these committees.
Yeah, well,
play tape.
But that committee has nothing to do with them being in our schools. That would be a legislative action.
Right.
Can you blow it up a little too, because I can't see.
For us, she joins us from the studio with more on this.
Video sent to me from a parent. According to them, this is the aftermath of a fight that broke out during lunch on Wednesday. You can see what looks like the Clark County School District police officer having his arm around the side of the student's neck. This video comes as a shock to the parent whose daughter witnessed it all and brought it to our attention. Katrina Singer says her daughter was waiting in line at lunch when a fight broke out Wednesday at Palo Verde High School. A student was being restrained by the CCSD police. If you look closely, the student is laying on the ground facing up. An officer is on top of him with the officer's arm around his neck.
You know, when I see a child on the ground in a chokehold by an adult, really is what I see.
Although it may look like a chokehold to the average viewer, we showed the video to a former Henderson and NYPD officer, David Colmier.
Of course, it doesn't look good, any videos where you have an officer basically around the neck area. It's a sensitive.
All right, so I mean, even when we were just talking,
it looks like he's trying
you were like, oh my God, that looks horrible.
Well, right.
And then when you realize what it really is,
see it, and that's across the room.
And they have the student's face blurred out.
Okay, well, for privacy, this is
but it looks bad at first glance, and when you study what's really going on.
But here's look, I am no police expert. What is going on, not just in our community, but across the country right now, is not just a police issue in our schools. Our kids have suffered a lot through being home, being isolated. Getting back on campus, getting back around students. You know, a lot of them have had the freedom to pretty much do anything on social media they've wanted during this time. You know, you've got TikTok, you got Instagram, you've got kids out there competing for likes and
trying
views.
To steal stuff out of a bathroom or out of a teacher's desk.
No, they're destroying bathrooms. I had a teacher over at another school got her shoes stolen this week during school. The fights. I mean, look, like last week, not this past week, week before, our athletics department pushed back the time of some of our grades to make it a little harder for students to just show up on a Friday night at 7 o'clock because of shootings during our athletic events.
And I believe this is all a direct result of the 2019 anti-restorative justice, where we got rid of our behavior schools. We got rid of the ability.
We still have our behavior schools.
But they're only at like 5% of what they used to be.
No,
that used to be
in
2016, they closed the behavior school right across the street
Which one?
here. The one right across the street here.
Which one?
I don't know the name of it because it's been closed for 6 years.
Okay, but I mean, we still have 4.
Right, we used to have like 20 of them. Like for every single little area had their own behavior school. Every time a kid got in trouble for a fight, a second time, or drugs or a weapon, they got sent to the behavior school. They passed the restorative justice thing where you can't get the kid out of school. A kid could go up to a teacher.
Yes, you can. Oh,
no,
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I teach in the schools, I'm telling you.
But you haven't. They just passed a new suspension and expulsion policy not even a month ago. And pursuant to that, you have to go through a chain of events before you can remove a student from school. So you need to go, and I think I'll send the link to you. But we just revised that policy alone. And it isn't even our policy that is bringing in restorative justice practices. Okay. It's teachers that are asking the district how the district has come back and addressed these kids with maybe some type of restorative justice to keep them in some schools.
This is an example of what's going on at our schools. Okay. And this didn't make the news. This wasn't a big news story. This is just a typical Friday night.
If that's Lydia, I don't even want to see it.
What are you talking about?
Nevada parent?
What does that have?
That's Lydia.
What about her?
Okay, tell me.
That has nothing to do. It's a video.
Okay.
I don't understand.
So I'm going to say something right out. Lydia, I love you, but as Nevada parent, you came into this community just a couple months ago, and you have been doing nothing but continuing to spread, divide, and misinformation. So, and I said what I said to you at the board meeting the other night.
I didn't even realize that you knew her, but the young lady
Absolutely.
simply...
Because you know what?
She's-
She tried to fool me. She came to me asking for help with her
What does
kid.
that have to do with the video I'm about to show
Because
you?
she's just spreading bull crap in our community.
Wait
Go
a minute,
ahead,
what are you
show it.
talking about? This is a video of a
Look at
football.
how
This
long-
has nothing to do with who posted it. Where are you going?
I want to read her post because I can't see it from up there.
But the post is not what we're covering here on the Johnny Bruce Show. It's simply showing you a video of what happened at a football game.
Yeah, but see, hold on. The premise of
That has nothing to do with her post.
It does
We're
too.
showing a video. It just happens to be. You want me to look up the video on another post?
Okay,
took it.
Okay, there was a shooting, but that was at Desert Oasis almost 3 weeks ago. So this didn't even happen this week. But go ahead, keep playing.
No, it's not playing. You need to go back to the.
Okay, but I want to read the rest of what's in her post.
Her post has nothing to do
The
with-
first sentence in her post says, "Get your kids out of CCSD." No, you need to get a grip on your kids.
If this is what's going on at CCSD, my kids aren't going to CCSD.
How does CCSD have to do anything with the behavior of your kids when they show up on campus?
What does CCSD have to do, and
Does
what responsibility?
CCSD
Hold on, let me finish. What responsibility do they hold at a CCSD football game? This not CCSD's fault?
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Did they start the fight? Did they tell your kids to show up to this and start a fight?
Play tape.
Play it.
Oh yeah. Oh my God! Oh my God! Hey, these are wrong people. No, these are wrong people. No. RJ.
Watch out! Hey! Hey! He told me Oh, damn. Watch out! Hey!
So, I don't understand. You're upset because this happened at least a week ago?
No, it happened a couple weeks ago at Desert Oasis.
But what does that have to do with it?
Well,
I'm
why
just
don't you
saying
let me
this
finish?
is a
You keep
typical
asking
Friday
me.
night
No,
in
it's
Vegas.
not. It is not a typical Friday night in Vegas. This is a typical kids are out of control. What do you expect CCSD? So here's what CCSD did. To attend any of these football matches now, first off, JV and freshman football got moved to Saturday games. So only varsity is playing on a Thursday or a
So
Friday.
instead of kicking out the
Why
kids
won't
who...
you let me finish?
How long do you want? You want the rest of the show? Go ahead.
You're asking me a question and I'm trying to
All right,
finish
let's
and you're
go.
cutting me
Go
off.
ahead.
Okay, let's go. So this is how it is now disrupted our sports again because of crap like this. It's not just transportation. So I just told you what they did to Saturday, okay? So
They're saying that they're doing that because of the shortage of bus drivers.
it's not just the bus drivers. They're also, to even get into one of these games now, you have to have a parent present, and it's only one student per parent.
Oh, that's nice. So the ninth grader who's done nothing wrong needs
Absolutely.
to bring his parent.
This
because
is
3
punishing.
kids are starting fights and we can't kick them out of
It's
school.
not just this, though. This is all of the fights going on across our district.
So you think none of these kids? So you think all these kids got kicked out of school that were starting the fights?
They have in Desert Oasis in particular. They have identified who the shooter was on that.
No, forget about the shooter. The shooting happened after there was 12 brawls. I saw 5 of them.
Right.
Do you think those kids are gonna be expelled?
They're I don't know. Let's follow.
No, they won't. Restorative justice says they cannot.
Are you kidding me? I just heard today. I was on a community meeting on my way here, and there's a young lady that happened to be standing by one of these fights with her friend. She's African American. Her friend is mixed race, but appears to be white. The African American girl is facing suspension and being put to a behavioral school, while her mixed friend, who appears to be white, is facing almost no discipline for being standing in the very same spot. So you tell me how that's fair.
I mean, that's a pretty loaded question. Who knows? Maybe the one girl who was African American did something wrong that the mixed
neither
girl
one
did.
were fighting.
Oh,
It was proven that I do. Neither
Well-
one was fighting.
Well, if it's been proven, then why is she getting kicked out of school?
I don't know. Why don't you go ask the hearing master? So it's not uncommon that our policies are directly affecting people of color. And
You just said that this has nothing to do with CCSD
I'm telling you
policy.
just about the one thing. You're asking about them getting expelled.
Right,
And I
nobody's
just
getting
told you
expelled.
of an instance where they are getting expelled and sent to behavioral school. So, I mean, I don't know what you want. So
I
anyways,
teach in the schools. The kids
You don't teach
get
in the
kicked
schools.
out.
You don't work for CCSD anymore.
Why, God bless me.
Thank
There's
you.
no way I've worked there for years.
And many teachers have that same sentiment right now, right? So
Right.
anyways, and obviously I'm voicing my frustration because CCSD in general cannot control what your children choose to do when they show up for school, for an event, or anything.
Well,
okay?
if they know they're going to get kicked out of school for starting a fight at a football game, they wouldn't
Sure.
start a fight.
I
So
tell
that
you
has
what,
nothing to
I'm
do
gonna
with
say
it?
this out loud right now. I'm going to put in a Freedom of Information Act and find out as best as I can with redacted information what the current process is for these students that were involved in this fight.
That was only one. There was
That
like
was
5
only
of them.
one. You're correct. They're going on all over the district right now.
30 seconds ago, you told me that this was an isolated incident.
No.
And this isn't happening on a
This-
typical Friday night in Vegas.
Oh my God, that's not
and now
what
you
I
just
said.
said it's happening
No,
all
John,
the
that's not
time.
what I said.
All
I
right.
did say before that it's happening all over our district. I was pointing to the video that you're showing me.
I said
that
this is
there
a
were
typical night in
There were
Vegas.
5 videos from one incident.
I didn't think I would want to bore you with all 5 incidents that have. I mean,
I know of
that
more
I know
than
of.
5. I
That's
know
what I'm
of
saying.
more than
But then
5.
why, when I say it's a typical Friday night in Vegas, you say no, it's not happening a lot?
I didn't say it's not happening a lot. Okay, can we rewind? Because I did not say it. I said
On
it's
YouTube,
happening
just
all over our district.
Okay.
Daily, not just at games. This is happening when kids show up for regular curriculum.
Okay. So, this really leads into something else, but I want to go in order. All right?
Oh.
We're also having major problems with THT and CCEA not paying their bills. Apparently, CCEA is missing $45 million in THT funds. Teachers are being reported to credit bureaus for not paying their bills because insurance didn't come through. OBGYNs are no longer, certain ones are no longer accepting teachers as clients because THT doesn't pay it. And at every single meeting, they're talking about where should we spend all this money, but meanwhile, people can't get a pap smear.
And not even the bigger one is comprehensive cancer treatment centers, effective I think the 15th, will no longer be taking new patients to their cancer clinic. So if you're established, you still get treatment, but if you're new coming in, you've got to find another cancer center.
Here's a video, newsreel about continuing THT.
A presentation from the CCEA on that situation. So in their presentation, the Education Association laid out an inconsistent history with THT Health. A lot of teachers and staff are worried. They're outraged because doctors are dropping their coverage and bills are being sent to collection agencies. Both current and former teachers stayed late to express their concerns.
I would have loved to teach for another 5 to 10 years, but I was tired of seeing other educators get ill or die too young from stress-induced illnesses. I had to make a change to be able to enjoy my life.
Last night's meeting only had a presentation. No action was taken. In a statement released late last night, CCSD said the CCEA failed to adequately explain the problem, but also said teachers deserve an effective, functioning health plan.
Now, I've been talking, for the better part of 8 months, how CCEA, Vegas PBS, THT, CCSD, they're all one and the same. But apparently, they're starting to turn on each other. This is the entire statement released by CCSD regarding this incident. The Clark, I think I gave you a picture. Did you have it? It's okay. The Clark County Education Association provided a status update on the THT to the Clark County School District Board of Trustees. In response to the CCEA presentation, the CCSD released the following statement. Despite the presentation to the board, the CCEA has failed to adequately explain the $42 million THT deficit or satisfactorily and accurately answer questions about the solvency of THT, because THT is literally on the verge of bankruptcy. CCSD teachers deserve an effective, functioning health plan that provides them and their families. If teachers are worried about their health coverage and whether their health needs will be covered, then they are being unfairly burdened by the inadequate coverage purportedly provided under the THT plan. Teachers should not be rejected by health providers because the provider has no confidence that payment will occur for services rendered. Further burdening teachers and their families with higher contributions for inadequate coverage is unconscionable. The Clark County School District cannot stand by while the Teachers Health Trust burdens teachers with higher expenses for less coverage, which basically sounds like it's CCSD saying we're not going to pay for it. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't sound like they're standing by the teachers, but neither with the teachers union themselves. Who is the advocate? CCEA is the strongest union in Nevada. The teachers union in general is the strongest union in America. But meanwhile, they got all this money for political donations, campaigns, and organizations, but meanwhile they can't pay teachers more than $50,000 a year or give them decent health care coverage.
And let's not, we're still sitting here on September 25th, and our teachers still have no contract for this year.
That's every year.
So
every year I work for CCSD, I sign my contract in September.
And then, even still, at the board meeting, they just came to an agreement to actually agree to pay teachers for their time and mileage for following their COVID testing requirements. How could someone not think about that over the summer when you knew damn well you were getting millions of dollars for testing, and you never thought that you were going to need to reimburse teachers for their time and their mileage to comply with your policy?
But then teachers are not being, also with the new grading system.
Right.
Teachers are being forced to work extra hours to take late tests, to do retests, to be available for tutoring and after school testing without being compensated for it.
The best tweet that I have seen since Thursday night has said 7 hours and 11 minutes.
Right.
That's what you're going to get out of us. And you know what? I praise them for that. And you know what? We all know that these teachers, they do love our students. And we know that they're still going to go beyond their 7 hours and 11 minutes. But to every teacher listening right now, if you do not go beyond your 7 hours and 11 minutes, I don't blame you, and I support you for that.
But I advocate, they were advocating for this the last time there was a teacher strike. And I was advocating for the teachers. I went on the Sharp and Shapiro show before the Johnny Brew show was even here, explaining how this whole thing is a smokescreen to continuously screw over teachers.
Absolutely.
If we're spending $5.2 billion and all this money on Chromebooks, testing, coronavirus tests, standardized testing, we could easily carve out $50 million for teachers and give them all a $10,000 raise.
We just spent $42 million in bullshit Chromebooks, and if they technically spent even that $113 million on those Chromebooks, where are my kids' new Chromebooks? Because I tell you what, the kids that I'm seeing have the crappy, semi-broken
with a
down
crack,
ones.
right?
Where's the new ones?
Right.
Are they sitting were they actually under purchase?
If you
where are
only
those?
took the money that we paid for coronavirus testing,
right,
we could give every teacher a $10,000
yep,
raise.
Absolutely.
Every teacher. If you only took the money from each of these little things, each $45 million.
We wouldn't even be sitting here talking about it. They could have, honestly, as a parent, I would have wholeheartedly voted for that $42 million to go right back over with guarantee that it wiped out that and got teachers right back to square one.
Right.
But
the problem is, where is the $45 million?
Why isn't our attorney general, where is the FBI, and where's the DOJ investigating this fraud?
There's a lot of money.
Because it is very clear that someone's pockets were getting padded, and especially when they said out loud in the meeting that their former president took a $200,000 bonus right before he was fired in February.
And then continuing with our previous point, you say that there might be a deeper reasoning behind this, but this is a continuing problem, and we haven't even had the vaccine mandate yet, where we don't have enough bus drivers for games, or as you said, there's too much violence and we need to spread them out, whatever the case may be. Here's the report regarding the bus shortage. Play tape.
The severe shortage has led to a trickle-down effect. Last week we told you that because of the school bus shortage, the district was renting out charter buses to take teams to games. Now they say that's no longer an option, and what it's leading to is more canceled games and just other games being shuffled around. For example, Liberty High Volleyball will miss their next 3 non-conference games.
From what I heard was, on a typical week, we might have 270 trips that need to be covered for sports, and we only have enough bus drivers to cover about 100.
The shortage of drivers is leading to sweeping changes. The rest of fall sports non-conference games canceled, with the exception of football. No makeup games that were canceled to COVID or anything else. Tennis moves to Saturday matches. Soccer kickoffs will start earlier at 4:30. And all freshman and JV football games are switched to Saturday.
Especially as a single parent, I have a limited time to get it. I made my work schedule work for Thursday nights, and then now they're changing to Saturdays, so now I got to change my schedule again.
Christine has 2 twin sons on Green Valley High's freshman
The thing that that makes me the most frustrated is they say that these Liberty volleyball players are going to miss 3 games. Mm-hmm. They don't have the option to rent their own bus.
Right.
Why not?
Okay, so first off, charter buses are still happening. I have proof. I have pictures of ones just from Thursday night's games. So just so you know, in our Let Them Play NV, one of our co-admin, Kimberly Brock, was able to, with some great advocacy with our county commission, they hosted a pre-recorded sports Q&A with Dr. Monica Cortez, athletic director Timothy Jackson.
Dr. Monica Cortez?
Yes.
She used to be the principal where I used to work for CCSD.
Okay, and then one of the doctors from Southern Nevada Health District. So on Wednesday, they did a pre-recorded Q&A we put out to all of our sports community for questions.
And Monica Cortez is the one answering these questions?
Amongst the panel.
She's like the head honcho of CCSD athletics?
Yep, absolutely. And I will say, hold on, before you say
with what experience?
Hold on.
Why would she get that job?
I didn't hire her, but I will say this out loud, and I've been saying it out loud. For our sports community, County Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick and Dr. Monica Cortez have been our biggest advocates keeping sports open right now. Under our current restrictions, we aren't even supposed to be playing.
I can't believe we can't. Like I said, I worked with her, and I was a coach at the school, and I was friends with the athletic director, and she's never known anything about the school athletics.
Well, like I said, it's a panel of about 5 people.
I'm glad to hear that she's advocating for the continuation of sports. I don't know why they were ever canceled in the first place.
Well, because of, COVID.
Because a 16-year-old can't play soccer?
Well, and again,
they might catch COVID?
All of our most of our highly involved sports kids, they've been playing sports this whole time. This has been our argument when we were fighting to get sports reopened back in the spring, getting fall made up last spring. A lot of these kids had to count on the community doing private club sports to get their video for their college
they weren't playing sports with CCSD. They were playing sports on their own dime.
But during normal season they weren't. But yes, so when they canceled the non-conference games, talking about they didn't want to come to the parents to try to help offer transportation because of inequity. It was inequitable when you announced that fall sports were going to be canceled last year with no makeup season. They made us fight so hard, and I know you saw that. We had to fight tooth and nail to salvage anything that we could for CCSD for fall sports.
And
we did it.
And this isn't only happening with bus drivers. I mean, we have this emergency substitute thing. I'm hearing about literally kids who graduated CCSD last year with probably the worst education in the country being asked to come back and be substitutes. And there's a myriad of problems. First of all, just letting anybody into our classroom obviously has its own problems.
Well, they're not just
Number
letting
two,
anyone.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
If you have a high school, your only thing is you need a high school diploma
But
or
again,
equivalency.
These are emergency substitute licenses, have restrictions on them. You cannot teach in any one given class for more than 3 days as an emergency. So it's not like they're long-term
Right, but
substitutes.
I mean, and then
how much did you ever learn if you had a substitute for English for a day or two when you were in school when you were younger?
how much are the kids learning on the day-to-day with a regular teacher?
I don't know. Give them their Chromebook and all of the apps.
This is something that I would think that you would be super PO'd about, because I know what's happening at CCSD. They're taking all of the special education teachers and backfilling them into the regular classrooms. So now if you're SPED, you're not getting your self-contained 5-10 person classroom. You and your 5-10 people are going into a class of 40, creating a class of 50 with 10 SPED, 1 SPED teacher, and 40 kids.
Or they're leaving the SPED to the SBLTs or the aides, because a lot of those kids can't, while the special ed teacher is in a gen ed class. And this is the most effed up part about all of it. The federal government prioritizes money for our special education and our ELL students. They get more money per student for those children in our district. And by them taking our bachelor and master's and PhD special education teachers and pushing them back over into general ed is a damn shame. And it also should be investigated, because the priority for that money to pay for that teacher to be on campus is to be in the classroom with our self-contained and our special education students.
It's about to get a lot worse. And please do not let her see who posted this. I'm just using the video. Please. No. Hit play before she could see who posted it.
No, you gotta show me the shit talker.
Oh my God, can you watch your language on the Johnny Brew Show?
I can't even.
Lauren Robinson?
I don't even know who that is, so we're good. I don't care. Is this,
You don't care?
I don't care. I don't know
You
who it
did
is.
care. You just moved to see who it was.
I just wanted to see who it was.
Play tape.
And you do accept it as presented. All right. Correct. Please extend your vote right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Ford. Yes, thank you, Trustee Ford.
Thank you. Dr. Jerry, did you have an additional statement?
Yeah, who cares? We don't want to hear it.
All right, so obviously, I don't know how good that came through on the broadcast.
I don't even know which
But
one
3 weeks ago, that was the board voting 5-1 to mandate vaccines.
That's not what they mandated.
No, they mandated the authority of JARA to mandate vaccines.
That's not. Did you read the mandate? Did you read the
they're
resolution?
giving him permission to decide.
Speak to the unions to attempt to negotiate it.
Well,
you gotta pull up the paperwork and read it. This is the problem. Nobody wants to read the paperwork.
The paperwork says that they were voting on the ability to give JARA the ability to mandate vaccines.
To give him the authority to go back to the unions to attempt to negotiate it.
Well, by the time that happens, coronavirus is going to be gone anyway.
I'm not the one who voted, and I'm not the one who drew up the paperwork. But you got to read the paperwork.
Well, here we go. This is going to be, I think it's you speaking at the school board meeting. It's going to be at, where are we? Oh, at 20 minutes exactly.
Oh, this one.
To stand to try to help keep our schools open and do everything that we can for our students. Whether you live in Summerlin or you live on the east side, I want our schools open, and I love these kids with all of my heart. I am very, very happy today that LA County School Union mandated vaccines for kids 12 and up. And I cannot wait for us to be that next district.
Please.
What's wrong with you? Are you crazy? You have children with autism. You have special needs children. Do you know how often vaccines have been related to children with special needs and having these problems? Do you know that the efficacy or the death rate in children is literally 0? Children are not at risk for this whatsoever.
We're at like
Why would you
526.
want 350,000 kids injected with something to fight against something that they're not at risk for at all?
Sorry, just correcting your numbers. So first of all, what transpired at that meeting, there was a lot, okay? And this is a compilation of, 3-4 months of meetings, not just our school district meetings, our county commission meetings. And the people that are sitting right up behind me, I listened to, again, this entire meeting. I could name them by name, but I'm not going to. And
What do they have to do with you telling people
Hold
to
on.
vaccinate
Why
children?
don't you ever let me actually answer the question?
You're talking about people in the
No,
crowd.
I am.
Who cares about who's in the crowd? I'm
Because
talking about
this is
you.
why I said what I said.
Okay.
So anyways, as this meeting's progressing, they're vile, they're vicious, they're demeaning, they're degrading.
They've been called vile before.
They're insulting so many of our community members and including myself that night, okay? So as I was up there saying what I said about being an emergency substitute and volunteering in our schools and how much I do care about our children and our schools staying open, I can hear them talking crap about me right there. See that right there? Sitting right there, right. Do you know how hard it is to actually get up? And that's literally why I'm in bleeping tears. Because I'm trying to have a train of thought at a business item meeting, and I can't because these people keep showing up and literally just being Camilla, who's sitting right there holding her daughter. I've had to help Camilla get her children out of that very same building when these people are literally getting ready to go nuts, and she's sitting there with her children over the CRT and anti-racism crap.
So that made you decide to tell other parents that they have to vaccinate their 8-year-old, 10-year-old? You just said you hope we mandate it.
I said I can't wait till we're next, and we're not going to be next. And if anybody was paying attention to everything, they know dang well that we're not going to be next. Because JARA's already come out and more than said we are not force mandating or mandating a vaccine for our kids. So for these people who don't like to read, they don't like to pay attention, they just like to show up and cause shit, stay away. Pardon my French.
Jeez,
so by the time I was done, literally trying not to cry to finish what I was saying, they get kicked out of every meeting, right? They get kicked out of every single meeting they show up to, right? I said what I said to set them off so they would get kicked out sooner rather than later.
Did it work?
If you continue to play that video, listen. You can listen to what they do when I'm done speaking. How is that respectful?
Okay.
How is that even? Hold on. How is that even respectful? Even if that was my opinion. How is that respectful of my opinion? But when you get up and speak, you expect the entire room, you expect the world to stop and agree with you. But the minute that anyone disagrees with your point of view at these meetings, you do this too.
Well, I mean, me and you have had our disagreements about, say, anti-racist policy. And I told you, that's a disagreement. You telling me that all children should be mandated to get vaccinated would set me off as well. I would lose my mind.
Sure, it's
and now you're on committees and this, that. You're one of the most preeminent speakers here.
Which honestly,
and then you're telling the board that they should follow the
But
LA
again,
County.
it's because I know, and I knew darn well already, we were never going to come to that. And like I said, when you follow everything and you actually read, you got to like open stuff up, that reading comprehension. You would know that even with me saying that, you knew it was BS and it's not happening.
That's not what the normal person sitting at home is thinking. The normal person sitting at home doesn't know about all the drama going on between you and your classmates.
Because they're not paying attention. They're only paying attention to
They're
national
tuning
issues
in.
that divide.
These are people at home who are tuning in to the school board meeting. They're trying to pay attention.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Because
all right, guys, stop watching the school board meetings.
If you sit there and read,
Stop.
If you sit there and read even the
So you either have to read every single minute or you have to not be involved at all. You can't just watch a school board meeting.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when they put up an agenda, there's attachments. So you have to read beyond the headline.
All right, but some parents aren't lawyers. Some parents just want to know what's going on in their school's kids, in their kids' school.
Click and open it. Click and open it. Read. You don't
They're doing homework. They're cooking dinner. They turn on the TV. They're watching your thing, and you're telling them that you should vaccinate vaccinate every kid in CCSD.
Okay.
And some mom and dad are sitting home like, who the hell is this? They look you up and they're like, oh, she's been named to this committee and this committee and this committee.
And even if
you
that
gotta
was,
watch
even
what you
if
say.
even if that was my opinion, I am entitled to that opinion without attack. Just like you're entitled to your opinion without attack. And anyone who knows me and knew, and when I said that, they knew why I said that. Because those very same people got kicked out not even 5 minutes later.
But
not even
really?
5 minutes later, they got drug out of that fucking meeting.
So the good thing is now those people are gone.
I don't know.
Okay, good.
I don't
So let's fast forward an hour later after the people have already been kicked out. They got kicked out, and we're at 124.58. And this is after the people that you disagree with got kicked out.
They actually got kicked out right after I left. So if you're fast forwarding.
Okay, but now this is an hour later.
No.
Yeah. Right. You ready? All right, play tape.
I guess just something to say out loud. One, thank you guys so much for, I know I say this over and over again, for how much you guys have poured back into our special education. Since we've returned to campus, that has meant a lot to our SPED community. It's affected my family directly, and I continue to thank you for anything and everything that we can provide these children in our community who have lost the most, but also have gained a lot. I know in watching a lot of community comment, in future presentations, I think the community as a whole would like if we can find a better term to use for our students than learning loss. We haven't, we've all lost so much, and I think we can find like such a much better positive term to use when we're discussing the needs of our students in our community. The mental health is super great, and everything outlined in this presentation is really, really super great. So I think a lot of us are really looking forward to getting those funds in, implementing them out into the community. I did want to say out loud, because I hear the chuckles and we've heard comments, meetings after meetings about equity. I've come a long way in 20 months from who I was 20 months ago. And realizing, just as a member of the community, the needs that so many of us have. No matter what side of town you live on, what your cross streets are or anything. But many of them are here today. But as I've been mentored, when you can really look out into the world and realize, even though it doesn't affect you, but you can give your time and you can care, and none of that actually affects you, it just helps other people. And I really, we know there's lots of people watching tonight, but going back to kind of what I said a minute ago, I've turned from concentrating on like my own family and my own home into concentrating to anybody who comes to me for help or finding where I can help. And I really wish more of the community that aren't already, I implore you to figure out how to help, and let's move forward. We are Vegas strong, and we're going to be here for years to come, and we need to come together and work together and be one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Responder. Thank you for your service to volunteering. I just want to remind the audience that we have 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes on.
Also, the disrespect from rows 5 and 6 needs to stop. Otherwise, I see you all laughing. This is not conducive to our meeting, and it's absolutely enough. No. So.
Okay. All right. Trustee Cepeda is correct. I know that you are yelling back and saying that there are other things that are happening. We cannot see every single thing up here. I'm going to admit that. But we can hear you. If you have an issue, then you can bring that up afterwards. But we cannot see every single thing, but we can hear you. So please show some respect to the people who are trying to make their way to the podium to talk.
All right. You're nodding in agreement with, but like if you were in my classroom and I saw that, I mean, that was the most smart ass horrible. You hid and gave them the finger to get them in trouble, and then they get in trouble for responding to you giving them the finger. And do you think, I mean, you're on camera.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, you somewhat represent the Johnny Brew Show. You represent the committees you're on. You represent all these great things that you're doing.
This happened before all of that, but sure.
The previous speech, you say this wonderful things, and then you try to walk away and you say all children should be vaccinated. Then you go up there, you say all these wonderful things, and then you flip off half of the room.
That is not half of the room.
That is all people see.
Okay, that is not half the room. That was the 3 people sitting directly behind me. That
Your husband was sitting directly behind you.
Okay, there were 4 people sitting in that row 5. They know exactly who I flipped off because as I'm standing there.
But why are you flipping people off at a school board meeting?
Because as I'm standing there saying what I said about our community, they told me to go F myself out loud, and the board can't hear that. I am allowed to defend myself, and I am not apologetic that I'm the second person in the community that has done something to their face when they're telling all of us to go pound sand because we might disagree with them.
But you call these people idiots in the room.
I didn't call them an idiot.
But I'm paraphrasing. You're just saying, like, these are some parents who get kicked out.
They're not parents. That's another thing. People in this group are not parents in our district. They're getting paid by people in this community to show up and do this crap just like it's happening all over national.
What did you just say? They're being paid to do that?
They're getting paid. These are freaking people. They are not parents. The only one in that row that was a parent was one sitting all the way on the end. The other 3 that were sitting right there were not parents in our community.
And you think they're getting paid to be there?
Absolutely.
By who?
Wow, we probably need to have another show because I literally could send you screenshots of the very people that everyone is clinging to, screaming freedom of choice, that are literally employed by somebody running for governor.
Well, who is it? That's
Gilbert.
You said you could say their names.
Gilbert. I can say Gilbert's name.
Paying the 3 girls?
Okay. Well, Lorena Cardenas.
Right.
Jumps all over Paul Laramie the first time she incites a bunch of crap at the board.
What does Paul Laramie have to do with this?
She's teeing in with Paul Laramie, and then boom, she winds up in a private chat with Gilbert on one of the Telegram pages. And so if anyone's in the community, we're all paying attention. As Republican as I am, I really am trying to stay out of it, but it is readily apparent that these people are only showing up because they're either getting paid, they think they're getting some type of notoriety out of it, and the number one person backing all of that, the employer that he says he walked away from for his mask mandate, is part of Gilbert's family. So do you really think that he quit on Gilbert's family over the mask mandate?
And who else is getting paid? Lorena Cardenas.
Oh, I don't know, but take a look at that group.
You mentioned Nevada Parent.
When you're not, she's part of the whole Buck tribe. She won in with Power to Parent in the Buck tribe.
You think Lydia?
You know why? Because the other night on Twitter
is with Carrie Ann Buck.
Oh yeah, hold on.
What?
So the other night
I saw her at the new CCRP meeting. Mm-hmm. She didn't go to the old CCRP meeting. Is Lydia a spy?
I don't keep track of any of that drama. Okay. But what I do keep track of is public education. And so many months ago, when I told P2P to take a flying leap in February, many months ago, Lydia came to me under the guise of needing help for her son. I helped her, okay? Then almost as immediately as I helped her, I'm getting pushed some messages where she's going at it with someone else in the community and pretending to stand up for me. First off, I don't need anyone in this community to stand up for me. I can stand up for myself. And so the other night on Twitter, there was a parent who was alleging that their son was one of the boys jumped in the past week at his high school. And you can clearly tell he's frustrated and you can clearly tell he's upset. And so I'm tone and stuff in some messages don't always go well, but right in public, I was because he's angry. He's so angry. And I get it. I wasn't telling him to not be angry. But I was if you kind of change your tune a little, you'll get responses from the very people that you're looking to get responses from. And so then boom, we go into this little conversation. It's all out in public. And then about 30 minutes later, I realized Nevada Parents tagged in that. About 30 minutes later, he comes back with that video and tells me I need to change my tune. So first off, sir, I said, well, I offered to help. You can keep spinning your wheels. But it comes back to the thing. When you are showing up screaming at people, nobody wants, you can't have a respectful, dignified conversation with anyone in public office.
But why wouldn't you be more of an example of that? Since you're going to committees, since you're always
John,
speaking.
why don't you come show up to every single meeting all year with me and sit by my side and listen to all of this stuff. And you yourself get up there and speak and see how you're treated.
I'm afraid to speak because I know that if I go up and speak, it's going to turn into a thing.
Okay, but there's no one else in this community that shows up for every single meeting like I do. No one. You tell me one other person.
Well, that's why we asked you to be here, because you go to every meeting.
When you hear everything that's going on in this community,
but it sounds like you think that anybody who doesn't do as much as you is not holding water.
That's not what
I'm saying. They don't read every single document. They don't read every single agenda item.
They're not. It's readily apparent.
Not everybody can do that, though.
You don't know how to read? You're telling me people don't know how to read?
I know how to read. I don't read every single thing. I keep up with it the best I can. You do more than me. I don't read all of it. That's why I asked you to come here.
All I do is read. That's my only special gift.
But is that what other people have to do to have a conversation with you?
But when you want to show up and speak about something, all you got to do is open up that little attachment to read all the information that's being provided.
And what if somebody just says, but I didn't like what you said about kids getting vaccinated? Because they didn't do enough research, they can't have that conversation. Or they think that you giving a finger was probably not the right thing for a professional to do. Because they didn't read the agenda?
I am not a professional.
Well, now you're on committees.
I am a mom.
You're the deep state now, remember?
Yeah, I am the deep state, but I am not a professional. Nobody pays me. I do all of this to volunteer for our community. So where does that leave me? I do nothing. No one pays me nothing. I do everything that I do for this community out of the kindness of my heart. And if I have sat there and ate these people's crap for months on end and watched how belligerent and belittling they are to very, very wonderful people in our community, you probably would have snapped a lot sooner than I did. Do I agree that that was right, that I did that? No. But when you're sitting there and I'm speaking about the good in our community and the good and how much I do care, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be showing up. And literally no one would have not snapped sooner than I did, okay?
Well,
and let's just keep pointing out that right after the end of that, I left. They were getting drug out of the room because they stood up calling most of our board members the most horrific names that you don't call anyone. So I'm the bad person because I do a lot for our community, and shame on Anna, but no shame on anyone else. I got it. And when the GOP or Lydia, Nevada Parent, whoever the hell you are, if all you have on me is giving somebody a bird, keep digging, because literally grow up.
Well, I am looking forward to seeing some of the comments on this video.
Okay.
And
I got mine open right now. Yep. No, we're good. My friends, the people who know me know why I did that. And you know what? I only had one person in the community respectful enough of me that actually came to me right after that happened and asked what happened, instead of plastering it all over social media and starting to try to dox me.
Somebody tried to dox you?
Oh, absolutely.
They were giving out your address?
Yeah, well, they were starting to. I left the conversation before they did. So I don't know the totality of that, but they basically said, and I have the screenshots of it, let's find out who she is, so when she goes out in public, we exactly know who she is, and we will find her. What does that sound like to you?
Well, I mean, if that's happened, I mean, I don't like that at all.
Right.
Whether it's a Joe Biden
But again, this is over someone not, this was just over me, what I said on the LA County School District stuff. This wasn't about me doing that.
That's how I feel about
But I'm allowed to have
Lola
my opinion.
Brooks.
I am allowed to have my opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion. And if the Republicans in this state just want to turn around and say, let's get her with the mob mentality, just like they've been showing up and threatening the lives of our county commissioners, our school board trustees, if that is literally the way you guys think you get stuff done,
who threatened the county commissioners?
Come show up in my house and tell me you don't like what I say.
Somebody threatened the county commissioners? Who?
It's all over social media. Go look. All you got to do is read.
I saw Mac Miller get thrown through a metal detector.
No, he didn't get thrown through. He was flailing around like a freaking toddler, and the two officers escorting him out of the building, shoulders didn't fit through the metal detector. If you've watched the 3 views of that video, he didn't get thrown through it. Their shoulders get caught in it, and then it comes tumbling over. Nobody threw him.
I think Laura Ingraham has more than 3 viewers.
Well, No, I said the 3 views of the footage.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. So, and honestly, I don't know why anyone in our Republican Party is giving any time of day to Mac Miller, who's a war deserter. If that does not tell you anything about his character, I don't know what does. Honestly, I have zero respect for a war deserter.
Well, I could tell you one thing for sure. You get coverage like this only on the Johnny Brew Show. We covered the gamut.
Did we get it all?
Yeah, it's been 2 months since you've been here, so that's why we had to cover so much.
Yep, no problem. I think we got it. Yeah. I'm good.
That's it.
All right.
Guys, please subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments down below. You could address them to me or Miss Anna Binder.
Find me.
And I'm looking forward to the conversation. But either way, it's our children first, and I think education is more important than Afghanistan, coronavirus, and everything else put together. It's our future.
Our teachers need us.
And that's why
Students
we
need
try
us.
to concentrate on education as much as we can. Thank you, Anna, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll get you next time on the Johnny Brew Show.